Hello there. Welcome to Play Tennis Practice Yoga. My name is Margaret Bannon. I teach both tennis and yoga, and today we'll be working on a couple of yoga postures and a couple movements inspired by the world of physical therapy for your tennis toes. So if you've ever experienced discomfort from running around the court, maybe your toes get cramped up in your shoes, or maybe you've even dealt with a condition called turf toe. That was my inspiration for this practice. You'll find this practice helpful. And so all you'll need for today's practice will be a chair to sit in at some point, a tennis towel, and a tennis ball, and a wall. Today I'll be using the tennis fence to put the legs up at the very end. All right, so if you find this practice helpful, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, Play Tennis Practice Yoga, where we have many practices both on court and on the mat, making that yoga for tennis connection. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's come onto our mats where we'll start with a very brief centering practice to help us find a little more focus for our practice and just to get a little more familiar with what's happening with the feet today. So you'll see that I'm standing about hips width apart. And as you start to ground into your feet a little bit, just feel the feet and start to press into the ground in order to strengthen the legs a bit. Come to stand up a little bit taller, maybe relax those shoulders away from the ears a bit, and come to close your eyes if that's possible for you to do today. So as you start to feel your feet a little bit more, I like to start this way because you can feel the very subtle movement within the body, especially if you come to close your eyes. You might start to feel how there's a gentle sway, maybe forward and back with the feet, maybe side to side. You might start to observe any habits, especially if you have an injury you're dealing with one foot, a particular set of toes. So notice anything at all. There's no wrong way to notice sensation within the feet. And now that you're a little more aware of what's happening in the body, come to notice your breath. Again, you don't have to make any major changes, just be with your breath. So both of these tools, feeling the feet on the ground, feeling the breath, are helpful not only in this practice, but when we're on court. Could be between points as you're standing, could be in the changeover as you're seated. And so a lot of these practices on mat are best when we're able to take them off of the mat. And so now go ahead and come to open your eyes, and we'll start to play with the feet here a little bit. So if it gives you a little more balance, you might even bring your hands to your hips. And so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to lift your toes up and away from the mat, and you're going to spread your toes nice and wide as you can, and then lower the toes down. So let's try that again. You might say that you're going to lift the toes on an inhale. See if you can spread them. I like to see if the right and left sides are doing the same thing. I'm going to exhale and lower them down. And let's try that about 3 more times on your breath, inhaling, lifting and spreading. Exhaling, lowering down and relaxing. I'm just noticing if it gets any easier. If it feels like it's a challenge, that's not a big deal. That's great. Actually, that means you're getting a lot out of this practice. So maybe just one more time with that same action. And then relax the feet, relax the toes down. So any of the things that we do today, we're just going to be taking a couple of reps, but know that if something feels great, if you get the sense that your body needs more of these particular movements, you can take more reps in your own home practice as you explore. All right, so the second movement, I'm hoping that you can see this. If not, you'll be able to hear with my words. You're going to alternate two different things. So in the first one, see if you can keep all of your little toes down, but lift your big toes. This is a tough one for me. And then let's lower the big toes down. So big toes stay on the mat. See if you can lift all of your little toes. So let's try that again. We're going to lower all the little toes down, lift your big toes. It might be subtle, as mine is. Lower the big toe down, lift all the little toes. So we've done that 2 times through. Let's do that 3 more times through. You could link this with breath, although I think it's quite of a challenge. Maybe you say that you inhale when the toes come up, exhale when the little toes come up. So maybe inhale when the big toes come up, exhale when the little toes come up. And if I haven't lost count, we'll just rest now and breathe. And now that you've taken some of this movement with the feet, feel your feet a little bit more. Has anything changed? In fact, close your eyes. Are you perhaps a little more aware of what's happening in the feet? All right, let's try one more here. This one might be a little more of a challenge. So you're going to try and keep your big toes and your heels on the ground, but at the same time, you're going to try to move the feet out towards the side. So I'm trying to keep my big toes, my heels on the ground, and then I'll return to that starting position where I'm a little more relaxed and through the toes. So one might say that I'm going to inhale. It's almost like you're curling the foot outward a bit. Exhale, lower down. So it's as if you're doing a little more work on the inhales. You start to roll to the outer edge of the foot, but keeping the big toes and the heel down. Exhale, lower down. Let's try that two more times, maybe feeling a little more work in through the arch, perhaps. We tend to get very tight there as tennis players. Excuse me. And then once again, relax the feet down, feel the feet a little bit more. Take a couple of breaths. All right, so this is where that tennis ball comes into play. You might also do this with a golf ball or a lacrosse ball if the tennis ball is not strong enough in sensation for you. But you'll place this on the ground. So we'll find a little more balance through one side. So it'll be the left side for me. And then I'll place that tennis ball beneath my right foot. So if you haven't tried this before, this is quite nice. You're trying to roll that tennis ball in the arch, perhaps where you just worked, maybe beneath the toes a bit, depending on your comfort, especially if you have an injury, I would be mindful beneath the toes. And then you might start to work towards the heel, which might feel a little more interesting. I like to get all the areas of my foot, but you might experience that only some areas work for you. So again, we won't spend so much time today, but this is a great practice after your tennis play. And so I'll come on out of that. I'll reset my mountain pose here in between sides, feeling my right foot a little more firmly rooted in towards the mat. And now I'm going to take that tennis ball beneath my left foot. So again, I'm going to roll. Does this feel a little different on this side? For one foot, it feels quite different for me. I know that for sure. In the arch, perhaps under the toes a little bit, maybe towards the outer edge of the foot and the heel. So the tennis ball would be softest. Then you might work towards that golf or lacrosse ball. And then once again, be with the feet for a moment. Most likely you're the most aware of your feet that you've been so far, maybe a little more sensation. It might even feel like you can relax more of your feet in towards the mat. Take a couple of breaths right here. And then we're going to come to sit in our chair. So you need your tennis towel. So grab that tennis towel from one of your past tournaments, whether you were playing or watching. This one is ancient. So I'm going to move my tennis ball off to the side, and then I'm going to bring this towel out in front of me. Now notice how I'm going to step on the tennis towel so that all or both of my feet are on the tennis towel. Okay, so we're starting right here, and try to be as upright as you can be. You might have to find a different length of a towel if you find that you're bending down too much and it's not working for your back. But what we're going to do is, once we feel the feet a little more grounded, we're going to lift the tennis towel up so that you're feeling a stretch through the toes. So all 10 toes are being lifted up. And let's say that as you exhale, you're going to lower your tennis toes down. Let's try that again. Inhale, lift the toes up. Just get a taste for feeling that stretch. Feel the toes, maybe feel the arches in the feet a little bit more. Exhale, lower down. So let's move on breath. 3 more times, and then we're going to hold the third time. So you can also create a similar effect by doing some heel raises. If you're standing, this is a little gentler, especially if you're dealing with a ball of the foot injury, that big toe injury. And so on your next one, let's hold it maybe for about 3 rounds of breath. Again, on your own, you could explore holding this longer. Maybe just breathing into where you're feeling the stretch through your toes, through the feet. And then go ahead and release the towel. Feel your feet a little bit more. All right, so the next movement is my favorite one out of everything that we're doing. However, the sticky mat gets sticky in being able to do this on your sticky mat. So I actually would recommend maybe doing this on a smoother surface, maybe a tile surface or even a wooden floor if you're working inside. In lieu of that, I'm going to do the best that I can today in using these tennis dots just to make the surface a little smoother for myself. So shout out to On Court, Off Court for their tennis dot targets, which are fabulous on court. So I'm going to take my towel and I'm going to place them on top of my smoother surface. And when you do this, see how my heels are grounded on the mat, not on the towel. So there's 2 movements here. I'm going to be scrunching the towel in towards me with my toes. And then in the opposite movement, I'm going to move that towel away from me as best as I can. You know, even if you don't get a lot of movement, it's more in the action of trying where you'll feel the benefit through your feet. So I'm going to go ahead and try my best, and I might even cheat a little bit just because the surface isn't too smooth. I'm going to try and drag this tennis towel towards me, easier said than done, and then I'm going to push it away. So I'm going to grab it with my toes. Oh, there we go. We got a little more movement second round. And then I'm going to push it away. If you want to work with breath, you could inhale and bring the towel towards you. And you could exhale and push the towel away. Let's try that 2 more times. This is harder than it looks, actually. I'm working with both feet, but you could do one at a time to make it harder. So pushing it away. And one last time, bringing it towards you with the toes. Again, this will be easier on a smoother surface. And pushing it away. All right, let's go ahead and rest for a moment. Again, just being with the sensations in the feet and the toes. This is how you begin to learn about what your body needs, really stopping in between these movements and just seeing how you've responded. That's different from rushing through these movements where we might be tempted to do from time to time. All right, so the next 2 movements are on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and move my tennis towel out of the way and my dots and my ball. So I'm going to come to recline on the mat. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this chair off to the side. And then I'm just going to come down nicely. I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to slowly recline down. And I'll do this with the left leg first so that you can see. We're going to go ahead and reach that left leg up. So this is less about the hamstring stretch, more about that foot and those toes specifically. So in one movement, we're going to point the toes forward and spread them. And in the opposite movement, we're going to bring the foot towards us and scrunch the toes in towards us. So one could say that we're going to inhale as we plant our flexi-foot and spread the toes, and exhale as we dorsiflex the ankle and scrunch the toes. This might feel quite interesting. Let's try that 3 more rounds, spreading the toes as the foot moves forward and scrunching the toes as the foot comes towards you. And so we'll finish up on this first side, and then we'll go ahead and lower the leg down. Take a rest. Possible that you might have felt some other things happening in that thigh. And then we'll go ahead and reach the opposite leg up. All right, so again, we're going to point or reach the foot forward. As we do, we're going to spread the toes. Hopefully you can see that a bit. And then as the foot moves towards you, excuse me, you're scrunching the toes in towards you. So you're reaching the foot forward. You could inhale as you spread the toes. You could exhale as you scrunch the toes and the ankle moves or the foot moves towards you. Let's try that 3 more rounds. Again, this might feel interesting, might be something that you actually have to think about. So I'd be less concerned about linking breath with movement and more in what you're doing. And as you progress, then you might be able to link the movement to your breath. And then go ahead and relax that foot, that leg down. All right, a couple of resting breaths before we take our relaxation pose. And today we'll be taking that by way of a yoga posture called legs up the wall pose. So really great to get some nice circulation in through the feet, the ankles, your tennis legs. Great thing to do after practice or if you're recovering from an injury with your toes, your feet. And so let me show you what that's like. So you'll have to get pretty close to a wall. And know that you don't have to be all the way up against the wall, especially if you're tighter and through the hamstrings. Your backside should be a little further away from the wall. The legs don't have to straighten completely. It's more about getting the legs up. So let's see if we can get into this position, and then I'll guide you through a brief relaxation. So we won't hold it too long today. I would say do this for at least 2 minutes, but if you're recovering from an injury, the legs are really tired, I would say 10 minutes. Maybe you even do this a couple times a day if you're really wanting to increase that circulation in through the feet, which is tough to do otherwise. So I'm going to come pretty close to my pseudo wall here. So notice how I'm getting sideways to my wall, and then I'm going to spin my body. Legs come up my wall, or in this case, my tennis fence, as I reach my legs up. I've got a little bit of give here with the tennis fence today, but you'll probably work with a wall inside, I'm guessing. And so the point is that you're getting the feet up, you're relaxing the legs, but I like to have a little engagement of the legs. Maybe I just ever so slightly flex the feet a little bit, firm up the thighs a little bit so my legs don't fall asleep, but play around with that. You could be more relaxed or a bit more firm, and then relax the arms to your sides. Know that you could always support your head if you feel your head spilling backward as well. And so feel the heaviness of your body on the ground. So from your hips to your lower back to your upper back, and finally the head. And then feel the heaviness of the heels on your tennis wall. Start to be with the sensations of your feet, your toes. Don't be surprised if you feel a little tingling. As you start to drain the legs in the opposite direction that they're used to being in. And as the body starts to relax, so we're talking about the toes today, but don't be surprised if the backs of the thighs, the hamstrings start to relax. Don't be surprised if your lower back starts to relax. Get an overall sense of the entire body relaxing a little more fully as you come back to your breath, just as we did in the very beginning in our initial centering practice in mountain pose. So for these last few moments, can you be with the sensations in your body, the sensation of your breath, allowing yourself to be here in the space you've chosen, nowhere else. So last few moments to truly be here. And then soften your knees, bring your feet to your wall, and then slowly roll over onto one side. So come on up slowly. You never want to rush when you're coming out of that legs up the wall pose. And so we'll come to sit for just a moment, feeling the heaviness of hips, maybe sitting up a little bit taller. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Just feel your breath for a moment. Feel the heaviness of your hips before we transition upward. And so open your eyes if they've closed. And I thank you so, so much for joining me today in this yoga practice for your tennis toes. I hope that you found it helpful. Try it a couple times, especially if you're dealing with an injury. Of course, I always want to consult your doctors. These are just things that I've experimented with and things that I've experimented with my students. We found them to be helpful. So I'm hoping that that's the case for you. But every body is different. You know your body best. And so try these things out, and please subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos for all of those other tennis body parts and for all of those other videos making that mind-body connection with yoga on court and on the mat. And so happy practicing. I hope to see you soon. Namaste.